I was scrolling through an innocent family group text about Thanksgiving plans when my Aunt Celeste sent a reply that made my blood run cold. 3 simple words that unraveled 30 years of lies and showed me that the family tragedy that shaped my entire childhood was actually something much darker. What I discovered next didn't just change how I saw my family, it changed everything I thought I knew about myself, my past, and the people I'd trusted my whole life. My name is Brielle Kensington. And I'm 32 years old. I live in a cozy 1-bedroom apartment in the suburbs of Clearwater Ridge, about 40 minutes outside the city of Northfield. It's nothing fancy: exposed brick walls, hardwood floors that creak in all the right places, and a kitchen window that looks out onto the community garden where Mrs. Holloway grows tomatoes that could double you. In a words, it's the kind of place where you know your neighbors' names and the coffee shop on the corner knows your order before you walk in. I work as a senior marketing coordinator for Zenith Creative Solutions, a mid-sized advertising firm downtown. It's steady work, decent pay, and I'm good at it. Not passionate about it, but good at it. My days are filled with client presentations, campaign strategies, and endless meetings about brand positioning. It's the kind of career that pays the bills and gives me health insurance, which at 32 feels more important than chasing dreams that might not exist anyway. My life is organized, predictable, maybe a little boring if I'm being honest. I have my routines: coffee at 6:30 a.m. while checking emails, gym 3 times a week, grocery shopping on Sundays, and dinner with my mom, Vivian, every other Wednesday, at that little Italian place on Maple Street where they know to bring her extra breadsticks without asking. But if there's one constant thread that runs through everything in my life, it's family. The Hartwell clan, my mother's side, we're a big, sprawling group: aunts, uncles, cousins, second cousins, and a few people whose exact relation I've never quite figured out, but who show up to every birthday party and holiday gathering anyway. We have a group text that's been going for about 5 years now, ever since cousin Jasper figured out how to add everyone to the same chat. It's called Hartwell Hearts, which I've always found a little cheesy. But no one asked me. The group text is usually pretty mundane: someone sharing photos from their vacation, announcements about new babies or job promotions, reminders about upcoming birthdays, and the endless coordination that comes with trying to get 23 people in the same place at the same time for holidays. My Aunt Celeste rarely participates. She might react to a photo with a heart emoji or respond "sounds good" to an invitation, but she's not one for long conversations or sharing details about her life. Which is why what happened on that Tuesday morning in October felt so completely out of character. I was sitting at my small dining table, laptop open, working through my morning routine. Coffee in my favorite mug, a navy blue ceramic one I bought at a craft fair in Millbrook, steam curling up while I scrolled through emails and tried to mentally prepare for another day of explaining to clients why their logo didn't need to be bigger. My phone was face down next to my keyboard, occasionally buzzing with notifications I was ignoring until I finished responding to my boss about the Reynolds account. The first buzz was normal family group chat, probably someone sharing a meme or asking a question about weekend plans. I didn't look right away. Then another buzz, then 3 more in quick succession. That got my attention because our family chat rarely gets that active, especially at 7:43 in the morning. I picked up my phone and opened the messages. It started innocently enough. My cousin Garrett had sent a message asking about Thanksgiving plans. His new girlfriend, Autumn, would be joining us this year, and he wanted to know what he should tell her to expect. Fair question. Our Thanksgiving gatherings are a lot. 30-plus people crammed into Grandma Rosalind's old Victorian house in Fairhaven. 3 generations trying to navigate politics, gossip, and who forgot to bring what dish. My mom, Vivian, had jumped in immediately with her typical organizational enthusiasm. So excited to meet Autumn. Garrett, tell her we do Thanksgiving buffet style starting at 2 p.m. Very casual, very welcoming. She doesn't need to bring anything, but if she wants to contribute, dessert is always appreciated. Then my Uncle Frederick chimed in, just warn her about Uncle Donovan's political rants. We tried to change the subject, but he's persistent this year. Cousin Miranda added, and tell her to pace herself on Aunt Felicity's stuffing. It's amazing, but she makes enough to feed an army. I was smiling, reading through the typical family banter. When my youngest cousin Elliot sent, should I bring the photo albums? Autumn might want to see family pictures. That's when everything changed. My Aunt Celeste, who again rarely says anything in these chats beyond basic responses, sent a message that made me stop breathing. Maybe we should tell Garrett the truth about Thanksgiving 1995 before he brings an outsider into this family. I read it once, then twice, then 3 times, convinced I'd misunderstood something. The chat went completely silent. For context, and this is important, Thanksgiving 1995 was the year my father died. I was 7 years old, just starting 2nd grade, still young enough to believe that bad things didn't happen to good people, that daddies came home from work every day, and that families stayed together forever. My father's name was Brielle Kensington, and according to everything I'd been told my entire life, he died in a car accident on November 23, 1995, the day before Thanksgiving. He'd been driving home from work late, there was black ice on the road, and his car slid off Riverside Drive into Miller's Creek. The car was submerged. By the time emergency responders found him, it was too late. It was a tragedy, a terrible, senseless accident that devastated our family and changed the trajectory of my entire childhood. My mother never remarried. She threw herself into work and raising me, but there was always this shadow of sadness that followed her around. She'd get quiet during the holidays, especially Thanksgiving, which we eventually stopped celebrating traditionally. Instead, we'd have a small dinner, just the 2 of us, and then drive to the cemetery to leave flowers on Dad's grave. The story of my father's death was the cornerstone of my understanding of who I was. I was Brielle, the girl who lost her dad young, the one whose mother was strong but heartbroken, the one who learned early that life could change in an instant, that you had to appreciate what you had because it could be gone tomorrow. But the way Aunt Celeste wrote the truth about Thanksgiving 1995 suggested there was something I didn't know, something the family had kept from me for 30 years. I stared at my phone, waiting for someone to respond, to laugh it off, to tell Celeste she was being dramatic or cryptic for no reason, to clarify what she meant. But the silence in the chat was deafening. Minutes passed, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, nothing. Finally, my mother sent, Celeste, this isn't the place for that conversation. That's when my hands started shaking. That conversation. Not I don't know what you're talking about. Not you're being ridiculous. But that conversation, which implied there was, in fact, a conversation to be had. Uncle Frederick followed with, some things are better left in the past, Celeste, and then Cousin Garrett. Obviously confused. What are you all talking about? What about 1995? Silence again. This time, it felt loaded, heavy, like everyone was holding their breath, waiting to see who would speak first. I set my phone down and realized my coffee had gone cold. My laptop screen had gone dark. I was supposed to be getting ready for work, but instead I was sitting in my kitchen feeling like the foundation of my entire life had just shifted beneath me. What truth about Thanksgiving 1995? I tried to think back to what I remembered from that time. I was 7, so my memories are fragmented, impressionistic. I remember being at school when my mom came to pick me up early. I remember her face being different, puffy and red, like she'd been crying. I remember sitting in the car while she made phone calls, her voice shaky and urgent. I remember people coming to our house over the next few days, bringing food and speaking in hushed tones. I remember the funeral, though not clearly. A lot of people dressed in black. Flowers. My mother holding my hand very tightly. My grandmother, Rosalind, crying harder than I'd ever seen anyone cry. My Aunt Celeste was there too, I think, though she seemed angry rather than sad. I remember thinking that was strange at the time. Why would she be angry when everyone else was just devastated? But I was 7. I didn't understand adult emotions or family dynamics. I didn't question the story I was told because why would I? Why would anyone lie to a child about how their father died? My phone buzzed again. I grabbed it immediately, hoping for clarification. It was Aunt Celeste. He deserves to know what kind of family he's marrying into. And then my mother, typing in all caps, which she never does, "Celeste, stop." That's when I knew this wasn't going away. Whatever this was, it was real, it was serious, and it involved my father's death in a way that made my stomach twist into knots. I tried calling my mother immediately, straight to voicemail. I tried calling Aunt Celeste, also voicemail. I tried calling Uncle Frederick, voicemail. It was like the entire family had simultaneously decided to become unreachable. I sat there, staring at my phone for another 10 minutes, watching to see if anyone else would say anything in the group chat. Nothing. The conversation had completely died, leaving only those cryptic, terrifying messages hanging in the digital air. Finally, I did what I probably should have done first. I called in sick to work. I couldn't imagine sitting through meetings and pretending to care about marketing campaigns when my entire understanding of my father's death had just been called into question. I sent my boss, Patricia, a quick email saying I had a family emergency and would be out for the day. She's understanding about these things, especially since I rarely take unexpected time off. Then I made myself a fresh cup of coffee, stronger this time, and sat down to really think about what I knew versus what I might not know, the facts, as I understood them. My father, Brielle Kensington, died on November 23, 1995. He was driving home from work. There was bad weather, black ice. His car went off the road into Miller's Creek. He drowned before anyone could save him. The funeral was handled quickly, I was told, because of the timing with the holiday. I have no memory of an open casket, which now seems strange. I remember people talking about how peaceful he looked, but I don't remember actually seeing him. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how little I actually knew about the specifics of that night. I'd never seen a police report. I'd never seen news coverage of the accident. I'd never even visited the exact spot where it supposedly happened, despite driving past Miller's Creek hundreds of times over the years. I'd simply accepted the story because it came from my mother, my grandmother, my family, people I trusted completely. People who loved me and would never lie to me about something so fundamental to my life. Or would they? I spent the next hour pacing around my apartment, trying to decide what to do. Call my mother again, drive to her house and demand answers. Tried to track down some official record of the accident. My phone buzzed with a text message. For a moment, I thought it might be more family drama, but it was from my best friend, Cassidy. Coffee later, I have drama to share about the wedding planning disaster. Cassidy is getting married in 6 months to her college boyfriend, Trevor. And the planning process has been a comedy of errors involving her future mother-in-law's opinions about everything from napkins and colors to seating arrangements. Normally, I'd be eager to hear the latest installment of Wedding Chaos, but today I couldn't even process the idea of normal problems. I texted back, "Can't today, family crisis, we'll call you later." She responded immediately, "Everything okay, need me to come over?" And that's when I realized I might actually need to talk to someone about this, someone outside the family. Someone who could help me think through what was happening without being emotionally invested in protecting whatever secret my family had been keeping. Actually, yes. Can you come over now? I'll make lunch. On my way. 20 minutes. While I waited for Cassidy, I found myself doing something I'd never done before. I went to my laptop and started Googling my father's death. Brielle Kensington car accident 1995 Northfield. Nothing relevant came up in the search results. Miller's Creek accident November 1995. Still nothing. Northfield traffic fatalities 1995. I found a few generic news articles about traffic safety initiatives, but nothing about specific accidents. This struck me as odd. Wouldn't a fatal car accident have been covered in the local newspaper? Wouldn't there be some record of it online, even if it was just a brief mention? I tried searching for my father's obituary. Brielle Kensington obituary. 1995 Northfield. This search finally returned a result. A brief obituary in the Northfield Herald, dated November 28, 1995. Daniel Robert Kensington, 29, of Clearwater Ridge. Passed away unexpectedly on November 23, 1995. He is survived by his wife, Vivienne, and daughter, Brielle. Daniel was a devoted husband and father who will be remembered for his kindness and sense of humor. In lieu of flowers, donations can be made to the Children's Hospital of Northfield. Services were held privately. I read it 3 times. Passed away unexpectedly. No mention of a car accident. No mention of how he died at all. And services held privately, which seemed unusual for someone who, according to my memories, had a funeral with dozens of people in attendance by the time Cassidy arrived. I was in full investigative mode, surrounded by notes and printouts. My laptop opened to various search pages. "Okay," she said, taking in the scene as she hung her coat on my door. "This looks serious. What's going on?" Cassidy Rodriguez is one of those people who makes everything better just by being present. She's practical, funny, and has an uncanny ability to see through bullshit, which is exactly what I needed right now. We've been friends since college. Bonded initially over our shared experience of being scholarship kids at a private university, filled with people whose parents own vacation houses. I showed her the group text conversation, explained the story I'd always been told about my father's death, and walked her through my failed attempts to find any official record of the accident. She listened without interrupting, occasionally raising her eyebrows or nodding, but letting me get the whole story out before responding. "Okay," she said finally, settling into my kitchen chair with the cup of coffee I'd made her. "So either your family has been lying to you about how your dad died for 30 years, or your Aunt Celeste is stirring up drama for no reason, right?" But the way everyone responded in the chat, I showed her my phone again. "Look at this. No one is telling her she's wrong. They're telling her to stop, which is completely different." "Yeah. That's definitely weird." Cassidy scrolled through the messages again. "And you're sure you've never heard any hints about this before? Nothing that seemed off or didn't make sense?" I thought about it. I mean, there were always things that seemed a little strange, but I attributed them to people grieving differently. Like, my Aunt Celeste was never really warm with me growing up. Not mean, just distant. And she and my mom have always had this tension that I never understood. What about your dad's family? His parents, siblings, that's another weird thing. He was an only child, and his parents died before I was born. So I've never had any connection to his side of the family. It was always just us and the Hartwells. Cassidy set down her coffee mug and looked at me seriously. "Brielle, if your family has been lying to you about this, that's not just about your dad. That's about your entire identity, your understanding of your own life story." I know. My voice came out smaller than I intended. "That's what's terrifying me. So what do you want to do? Do you want to find out the truth, even if it's something you don't want to know?" That was the question I'd been avoiding asking myself directly. Did I want to know? What if the truth was worse than the lie? What if my father hadn't died in an accident at all? What if there was a reason my family had felt the need to create an elaborate fiction? But sitting there in my kitchen, looking at the confused and cryptic messages from my family, I realized I didn't have a choice anymore. The door had been opened. The secret was already partially out. I couldn't unknow what I'd seen in that group chat. "Yes," I said, "I need to know the truth." "Okay then," Cassidy said, pulling out her own phone. "Let's figure this out. Where do we start?" Before that Tuesday morning shattered everything. My life with the Hartwell family felt like the most normal thing in the world. We were close, maybe closer than most families. Sunday dinners at Grandma Rosalind's house were mandatory unless you were out of state or hospitalized. Birthday parties were elaborate affairs with at least 20 people in attendance. When someone had a crisis, the entire family mobilized like a small army. Growing up, I thought this closeness was because of my father's death. The family had rallied around my mother and me, making sure we never felt alone or forgotten. Uncle Frederick became a father figure, teaching me to drive and walking me through my first job interview. Aunt Felicity helped my mom navigate single parenthood, always available for babysitting or school pickup when work ran late. Even my quieter relatives, like Aunt Celeste, were present at every major milestone: graduations, birthdays, the few times I brought boyfriends home to meet everyone. My mother, Vivienne, was the heart of it all. At 58, she's still beautiful in that effortless way some women manage silver hair she wears in a stylish bob, laugh lines that make her look approachable, and an energy that fills whatever room she enters. She works as a nurse at Northfield General Hospital, the same job she's had since I was in elementary school. Everyone loves her there. Patients request her specifically. Doctors trust her judgment. She's the kind of person who remembers your birthday, checks in when you're sick, and somehow always knows exactly what to say when life gets complicated. After Dad died, she could have remarried easily. She's had plenty of opportunities over the years, colleagues, neighbors, even a few family friends who made their interest obvious. But she always said she'd already had her great love story, and she was content focusing on raising me and building her career. I admired that about her, the way she turned tragedy into strength, loss into purpose. The Hartwell family gatherings were legendary in our social circle. Thanksgiving at Grandma Rosalind's Victorian house in Fairhaven was an event that required military-level coordination. The dining room table seated 12, but we somehow crammed 25 people around it every year. With card tables set up in the living room for the kids and overflow seating in the kitchen for anyone who arrived late. Uncle Frederick would carve the turkey with ceremonial precision while telling the same stories about his college football days. Aunt Felicity would fuss over everyone's plate, making sure no one left hungry. Cousin Garrett would organize touch football games in the backyard until it got too dark to see the ball. The younger cousins would disappear into the basement to play video games and emerge hours later covered in dust and sugar from sneaking cookies. And through it all, there were photos. Endless photos. The Hartwells documented everything family. Portraits by the fireplace, candid shots of people laughing over dinner, group photos on the front porch steps. My mother has albums full of these memories, carefully organized and labeled with dates and occasions. But now, sitting in my kitchen with Cassidy, I realized something that made my stomach clench. In all those family photos, in all those carefully documented memories, I couldn't remember seeing a single picture of my father. Not one.